Patty's so-called mother and that baby she had finally moved into their own place. For some reason, Patty never felt comfortable or at home living with her so-called mother. By this time, Patty's so-called mother is chasing another man and giving him all of her attention. Yep, that's right, she hopped off of one man and right up under another one in no time. She had a revolving door of men coming and going until this particular man came along. William was a married man with a daughter. Eventually, every morning, William would come to the house and pick Patty's so-called mother up, and they would drive to work together, and every afternoon he would bring her home. He wouldn't just drop her off. He would stay until the late morning hours of the night, and then go home to his wife and kid. Patty couldn't take being there with her so-called mother. She had to get away from her. She had so much hate for this lady, and just didn't want to be around her. After several years of dating William, his wife found out about Patty's so-called mother. The first thing her so-called mother did was to accuse Patty of contacting this man's wife and telling her. Patty was once again hurt by this so-called mother. Why would she think that Patty would do such a thing? She didn't want anything to do with any of them. Patty assured her that she had nothing to do with it and didn't know how his wife found out about her. The condescending way her so-called mother replied pretty much let her know that she didn't believe a word she said. After a few months, we all found out it was this married man's daughter that told it all. Patty never received an apology from her so-called mother. Not that she was expecting one, because all of her life all she ever heard from this so-called mother was negative shit. Fast forward, Patty is almost 16 and she's dating. She has fallen in love with the boy of her dreams. He's young but very mature. He's a serious person but likes to have fun. They balanced each other and experienced everything young love could possibly experience together. After 2 years of dating, Patty became pregnant with her first child. Her so-called mother was totally against it. She told her she had to have an abortion. It was either to have an abortion or find somewhere else to live. Her way or the highway, Patty's so-called mother scheduled an appointment for her to have the abortion the following Wednesday at 3 p.m. She was supposed to get half of the abortion payment from her boyfriend. He came over to the house to drop the money off, but when he arrived, he told Patty that he had to go home to pick the money up. Patty figured it's only 11 a.m. It's more than enough time to drive to his house and be back in time to make the scheduled appointment. Patty's boyfriend had other intentions. He lured her into his bedroom and closed the door. He told her he didn't want her to have an abortion, and he would talk to his parents to see what could be done. Patty began to panic. She jumped up and reached for the doorknob, but it was gone. There was no doorknob. She cried, "I won't have anywhere to live. She's going to put me out if I don't get this abortion. Please take me home and give me the money." He told her not to worry and calmed her down. As they lay on his bed making small talk, time slipped away and they both fell asleep. Patty jumped up, and it was well after 3 p.m. She noticed that the room door was now open. Her boyfriend was sitting in his living room looking at TV. Patty called her so-called mother to explain to her that her boyfriend locked her in his bedroom, but her so-called mother was not having it. She screamed over the phone, "Stay where you at. You know everything. Can't nobody tell you shit. Just keep your ass where you at," and hung the phone up on her. Patty was lost, discouraged, and didn't know what to do. She called her aunt, the one that always had the answers, to explain to her what happened. Her aunt told her, "He needs to take care of you and the baby." She stated that if he has somewhere to lay his head, she should too. That's not what Patty wanted to hear, but that was the advice she was given. She called her grandmother next. Her grandmother was neutral in the situation. She said, "Well, you know how your grandfather feel about you being pregnant by a foreigner. He doesn't like it and no longer want you in the house." Patty burst out in tears, crying her heart out and pleading with her grandmother to please let her come and stay with her. She felt like she was all alone in this world by herself. The last thing her grandmother said to her was, "I'll meet you up the street at the corner store every Friday to give you a little something to help you out, but you can't come here." Patty explained to her boyfriend what was going on. Although his family knew they were too young to have this child, they stepped up and took her in. His mother treated her like she was one of her own children. As a matter of fact, she treated her better than her own so-called mother did. Towards the end of Patty's pregnancy, she and her boyfriend were not getting along. Patty was being left alone without transportation or food in a remote location and couldn't take it anymore. She contacted her called mother and asked her if it would be okay to come and stay with her just for a few days. Her called mother agreed. Patty was shocked. When her boyfriend came home the next day, he took Patty to her mother's house. After being there for a few days, Patty went into labor. Patty's called mother was being nice to her. She took off work and drove Patty to the hospital and even stayed with her the entire time. After being there for a few hours, Patty's boyfriend showed up. He showed up just in time. The next thing Patty remembered was being rolled out of the delivery room and feeling exhausted. Her boyfriend was holding her mother's purse and coat. The hospital only allowed 2 visitors at a time. Patty's boyfriend's entire family came up to the hospital. It was so many people in the room that the nurse had to make some of them leave. His parents came, all of his aunts. One even came over from another country. Patty thought if only her family could be so understanding and loving. A few days later, Patty was being released from the hospital, and the one person she thought hated her and never wanted to see her again was asking to see her and the baby. Yes, her grandfather, Patty's called mother, said, "I'm taking you over to your grandparents' house so that they can see the baby. Your grandfather has been asking about you and the baby, and he made you a special dish." Patty was shocked and thought, "What is going on?" Everyone was being nice, even her called mother. When they pulled up to her grandparents' house, her grandfather was in the living room waiting for them. He had a camera in his hand and a smile on his face. He said, "I heard you was asking for some spaghetti while you were in the hospital, so I made you some." He took so many pictures of Patty's new baby. Her grandmother walked in with an even bigger smile on her face, saying, "Where's that new baby?" She entered the living room and went straight to her and just stared at her. Her grandfather took a few pictures of her grandmother holding the baby and asked that we take some of him holding her as well. Patty was now welcomed back into her grandparents' home again. This was a joyful moment for Patty. She returned to her mother's house with the baby. Her called mother seems to be getting attached. It seems as if she likes Patty's baby. She's not talking down to Patty like she normally would. She doesn't have anything negative to say. Patty could only wish that this loving treatment would continue. Of course, it wasn't going to last long. Patty's boyfriend wanted her and the baby to come back home with him. He told her that his family has gotten them an apartment and wouldn't have to worry about anything for a year. This was the best news Patty could have received. Their new home would be closer to civilization. She could take the local public transportation to get around if needed. Patty's called mother was not happy with the arrangement. She told her that she needed to stay with her while the baby was still small. Patty just wasn't comfortable enough with her called mother to stay. Patty gathered some of her and the baby's things to leave for their new home. She didn't want to take all of her belongings because she thought that would really piss her called mother off. Go figure, she still got pissed off. Unbelievable. This controlling ass bitch. She's a bully and knows that she can bully Patty for sure. Patty said to herself, "I knew it wasn't going to last long." Patty's called mother continuously called her to check on Patty's baby. She loved Patty's baby and Patty could see that. She wished that she had the same love for her, but at that point Patty no longer gave a fuck. She never cared much for this called mother and still didn't trust her. Patty's baby is turning a year old. Her called mother wanted to have a party for her. Patty allowed her to give her baby her first birthday party. Her called mother invited her co-workers and friends. Patty was limited as to who she could invite. She hates this bitch. She's a bully. Patty finds out that she's pregnant again. Yep, she's pregnant with baby number 2. She ends up in the hospital for a whole week before she delivers her next baby. While in the hospital, once again, her called mother was extremely helpful. While Patty was in the hospital for 2 weeks, her called mother and that baby she had was taking care of her other baby. When it was time to go home, her mother showed up to pick her up from the hospital. Before they could reach her house, her called mother pulled the car over to the side of the road and told her, "Look, I don't know what's on your mind, but make this your last baby. Don't have no more fucking kids. You're already young and black, girl, you need to get it together." Patty just sat there thinking to herself, this bully bitch just couldn't wait. She always has something negative for her. Patty still couldn't express herself or talk to her called mother. She just sat there not wanting to hear any of the shit that was coming out of her so-called mother's mouth. Fast forward, Patty's 2 kids are now potty trained and ready for school. Patty's so-called mother and her man would pick Patty's kids up every morning and take them to school and drop them off every afternoon. That was a big help because Patty did not have a car. Patty and her boyfriend ended up going their separate ways after almost 7 years. They remained friends, but Patty wanted something more for herself. She ended up landing a job with a central banking company and had a few roommates that didn't mind kids. She had a conversation with her so-called mother to let her know that they would be relocating to Mississippi. Her so-called mother said, "Listen, leave the kids with me while you're getting yourself together." Patty looked at her, and before she could say anything her so-called mother said, "You can see your kids whenever you want. You can call and speak to them whenever you like. Just get yourself together and get your own, then come and get your kids." Patty was hesitant to leave her kids, but she knew how much her so-called mother loved her kids, so she agreed. Patty was doing well for herself for the first time in her life. She was happy and seemed to have it all until one day she called her so-called mother to speak to her kids and was unable to. Yep, you guessed it, her so-called mother wouldn't let her talk to them. Weeks went by before she could speak to her kids, and Patty did not like that. This bitch is still being a bully, but only to Patty because she knows that she can get away with it, and Patty is not going to say or do anything. Patty was in town and wanted to see her kids, but was told that she couldn't see them until the weekend. This bitch is still being a bully. Patty thought about what was going on and how her so-called mother lied to her about being able to speak to and see her kids. She was over it and had to do something about it. It's tax season. Patty files her taxes and sees that she's going to get some money back and wanted to do something special for her kids, but as luck would have it, she didn't get it. Instead, she received a government notice letting her know that her taxes was intercepted for child support. What? Yep, Patty's so-called mother went down to the welfare office and applied for benefits and only sued Patty for child support. Not Patty and the father, only Patty. She hates this bully bitch. After finding out what her so-called mother had done, Patty was beyond furious. She wanted her kids back, but here's the next slick, unhanded, sneaky shit Patty's so-called mother had done to her. She went down to the courthouse to get custody of Patty's kids without telling her. The address that she gave the courts, Patty no longer lived there, and her so-called mother knew it. She knew that Patty had relocated because Patty never received the court notice letting her know when to appear in court. Her so-called mother was automatically granted full custody of Patty's kids. Patty couldn't fight this bully anymore. She wanted nothing to do with her, but she had to stay in touch with her because she still had her kids. She didn't know what to do or how to approach the situation. She just thought to herself how much this so-called mother really hates her, but the feelings were mutual. Patty hates that bitch to the core. As Patty's kids grew up, she would be able to spend a few holidays here and there with them, and maybe a few weeks with them during the summer break. Patty made sure to have everything needed whenever they came over to visit. She loved spending time with her kids.